Learning how to use your paints with the water is a really important part of using watercolour paints. So apart from just using them to colour in, as it were, it's very helpful if you can learn to play with the water and to get some interesting effects. So I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to just take some clear water. I've already mixed a yellow, a red and a blue. Use what you've got. This is a cadmium yellow, a alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue, but they don't have to be the same. And what I'm going to do with some clear water, I'm just going to wet an area of the paper. Now, I don't know if you will be able to see that, if the light catches it, but you'll see it in a minute, because what I'm going to do is drop some yellow into the water. Now, can you see how it is travelling? And that will only go where the water is. If you remember your school science, it's something called surface tension. So we drop a bit more in and you can allow it to just move about. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop a bit of the red in at the other end. Now, see how that has merged, and see how it moves with the water. It's really rather interesting. You can have a lot of fun. You can just make shapes with water and then put your paint in and see what it does. But we're also doing some colour mixing. Look, the red and the yellow will make an orange. Let's pop the blue in there and see where that goes. It's a little bit more. Now there's a little bit of dryness there, can you see, where the paper has dried off? And of course, as it's textured, the water has stayed in the low bits, in the puddles as it were, the dips, and the paint has run around. And you can see that we've got this yellow and the blue are making a green. Now I'm going to put a bit more yellow in, and with the yellow on the brush, I'm just going to pull some strands out. I'm going to just wipe the brush off and pull some more strands out. So there we've got the blue and the yellow together making a sort of a green, and here the yellow and the red making a sort of an orange. Now let's go back the other side. Let's put a bit more blue in. Ooh! Isn't that gorgeous? Let's put some more red in. I don't think we've got enough there. And let it go with that blue a little bit. So I'm starting to make what looks like a feather. I'm just going to dry that brush off a little bit. Move that water out of my way. And I'm just going to turn this round so it's easier for me to do. And we're starting to get some very interesting colour mixing and shapes. And you can overdo it sometimes and end up with a lot of mixtures. Too many colours will just end up giving you mud. But I hope that is showing you a few things you can do by playing with the water and the paint. It's a really good exercise to get you better acquainted with your paints, and it's also about the drying cycle. Can you see how that has gone quite pale and matte? That is because that area has dried off. If I put a bit of paint in there now, oh, it's travelled a little bit, but not too much. Let's go up here. Let's try that bit. See, that has dried off quite a lot, so the paint hasn't travelled so much. So let's just put a few dots in just to make it interesting. And see how some is damper than the others, and it's travelled. Let's do some with the blue. travelled quickly there, just a bit there, bit there, not so much there. Let's do a few dots until it does. There we go. Let's just pull a bit of the yellow, mix a bit of the blue and get some interesting colours and interesting watermarks. Let's see if we can get that to travel along that dotted line. Let's just encourage it a little bit. Right, I'm going to dry my brush off and just pull some of this out. You see how a dry brush can actually suck the colour out. So if you end up with too much, dry your brush off and it will suck it out. Let's just play with a bit more. This is very, very therapeutic, but it is also, if you're a beginner, a great way for you to learn about your paints and how they work. Now, I hadn't cleaned that brush off, so I've got a bit of the red left on it and a bit of the yellow, but I'm not going to worry about it. Let's just pull more colour out. Let's make this a nice big feather. Let's go out the other side. Let's go back for a bit more blue. We seem to have lost the clear blue. Dry the brush off a bit. There we go. You could almost end up with a peacock feather, except the colours aren't quite right. Now, if you were to tip that long enough and the quantity of the paint builds up, it will eventually break the surface tension with a bit of encouragement. And there it goes. So the paint will only go where the surface is wet and ready to receive it on its journey. When it's dry, it won't move. So have a play about with various shapes. You could, if you wish, let me just rinse off my brush, just do a letter, say. I think that's the S I've done. And just see how it travels. And this will help you learn about the drying process. Leave it a few minutes and then try again and see how far your paint will go once the paper has dried off. So I hope you find that helpful.